All right, so we are looking at surds. All right, we have the first question here. We have to rationalize the denominators of the following: 1 over the square root of 5. So this is what we're going to do. Right, we say solutions. So surds, you're never supposed to leave your answer as a surd as your denominator. All right, you never want your denominator to have a root on top of it. So you always have to get rid of it. So for example, 1 over the root of 5. To get rid of this root of 5, we have to multiply it. We have to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the root of 5. Because if you remember from surds, a times the root of a times the root of a equals a. So 1 times the root of 5, we get the root of 5 over the root of 5 times the root of 5, we get 5. So our answer is the square root of 5 divided by 5. We go to our next question. Next one. Number 2. 1 over the square root of 3 minus 1. So we have to get rid of this square root of 3 in our denominator. So we're going to multiply it by the conjugate. So remember, the conjugate just has the opposite sign. All right. So if we have the square root of 3 minus 1, the conjugate would be the square root of 3 plus 1. Listen, the conjugate, it's only the sign that changes, but the expression remains the same. Right? So always when we multiply the denominator, what we multiply the denominator by was multiplied the numerator too. Right? So 1 times the square root of 3 plus 1 gives us the square root of 3 plus 1. And for our denominator, all right, let's do our operation here on this side here. So say the square root of 3 minus 1 multiplied by the square root of 3 plus 1. So the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. If you remember our law here, square root of a times the square root of a equals a. So that will give us 3. The square root of 3 times 1, that will give us the square root of 3. Negative 1 times the square root of 3, we get negative the square root of 3. Negative 1 times positive 1, we get negative 1. So the square root of 3 minus the square root of 3 equals 0. So we're going to remain with 3 minus 1, which equals 2. So our denominator is going to be 2. So that is our answer, the square root of 3 plus 1. All right, we go to our next question. 5 over the square root of 5 minus 2. So again, we're going to multiply by our conjugate. 5 over the square root of 5 minus 2. So we multiply by our conjugate, which is the square root of 5 plus 2. Okay, and also multiply the numerator by that. All right. So 5 times the square root of 5, that gives us 5, the square root of 5, plus 5 times 2, that is 10. And in our denominator, let's do our operation this side. The square root of 5 minus 2 times the square root of 5 plus 2. We follow our expression, the square root of 5 times the square root of 5, that gives us 5. The square root of 5 times 2, that gives us the square root 2, the square root of 5. Negative 2 times the square root of 5 gets negative 2, the square root of 5. Negative 2 times positive 2, we get negative 4. So again, if the square roots are the same, you can operate on the expression. So 2 the square root of 5 minus 2 the square root of 5, so the square roots are the same, so we can subtract. That gives us 0. So remember, with 5 minus 4, that gives us 1. All right, so Our answer is the square root of 5. 5 times the square root of 5 plus 10 over 1. It will be simplified as 5, the square root of 5 plus 10. So that is our answer.